In this video, I'm going to go over what I've been working on Battle Royale Tycoon, along with an overview of how each element works. New buildings, VIPs, overlays, maintenance and trash system, and improved performance. Let's begin! So there have been fewer videos lately since I've been focusing on making progress on Battle Royale Tycoon. I'm trying to get the game fully completed and out of early access by the end of August, so that's my priority right now. You can pick up the game on Steam, and if you do, please make sure to write a review since reviews help the game stand out on Steam. Here I will go over what I've been working on and a brief overview of how each element works. If you'd like a more detailed video on anything I show here, please post it in the comments. So, in total, I've been working on adding a vending machine, coffee shop, new VIPs, overlays, crowd system, performance, and maintenance system. Starting with the coffee shop, this is a building where the guests go in to drink some coffee which replenishes their energy. The building is composed of essentially two elements. There's the coffee machine and the counter. The outer part works very much like any other building, so there's an exit and an entrance with a waiting queue. Let's look at a basic interaction. The worker is waiting, a guest goes in, guest makes his request, the worker takes the request, goes to the coffee machine, starts making the coffee, waits for the coffee to be completed. Right now it's done. Now he grabs the coffee and gives the coffee to the guest leaves, and so on. The workers are dynamic, so they're not stuck just serving one particular, so I can add another counter in here and another one there. And right now a bunch of guests can occupy all the counters, and the worker is smart enough to be able to complete tasks to go from this counter, this one, and this one. Meaning that a single worker can handle various counters without issue. The counter has a position for the guest and one for the worker, and the coffee machine has a position just for the worker. All of the tasks here are handled by the task system. I've covered the entire task system on the channel, so check out those videos to see how it works. And in here on the coffee machine, there's a very simple but interesting animation. The coffee cup is just a simple sprite that gets shown or hidden depending on the state of the coffee machine. And the coffee drip has a very interesting but simple animation. So let's pause and look at it. Here it is in the editor, and you can see the animation exactly like that. This animation is very simple. It looks like a liquid falling down, which is exactly what is intended. Now over here is the texture. As you can see, it's just a static texture. And then in here, in the material, you can see the offset is constantly increasing. This is what makes it constantly move. So it looks like liquid actually falling down. The only thing you need to make sure that this works is to go onto the texture and make sure that the texture over here on the wrap mode you have repeat. As long as it is on repeat, this will work. So anytime you want to have a scrolling effect, this is all you need to do. A very simple but nice animation. Then another element is the vending machines. Over here, the vending machine. This is a really simple one, which is essentially just a different type of building. So I click, place it, and there you go. There's the building right there. Essentially, it's exactly the same as any other building, except it does not have a waiting queue. Although in reality, it does have a waiting queue to manage all the guests going in there and using it, except the waiting queue only has one slot and is invisible. But in terms of functionality, this is exactly the same as this. The guest essentially goes to the vending machine, thinks for a while, then decides whether he wants to drink or eat, and then makes his decision, grabs his thing, and solves his need. The vending machine serves for solving both the thirst and the hunger need. Then he leaves and the vending machine becomes empty and another guest can go in. So it's a very interesting building that is quite different from all the others. For the player, it provides another way to solve hunger and thirst needs without taking up much space. Another nice addition are the new VIPs. These are great for making the game more varied. I made a video covering how I initially added the VIPs in the game, so go check that out. And now I've added 7 more. Some of them you won't recognize if you've been following the channel. So right now I've added the Sleazer, Mage, Wizard, and Mystic, which are characters that I drew for the Game Jam RPG. They work great as individual interesting VIPs. Then there's Blueprint Man, which is supposed to be a character from Blueprint Tycoon. The Ogre, which is a character from Hyper Knight's Battles. And finally Mr. America, which you'll recognize from the video making Captain America. So these are the new, very interesting VIPs. In terms of functionality, every VIP is pretty much like every other guest. They have needs and go to various buildings to have fun, The only differences are they have special names, special textures, and a bunch of special messages. And when they leave, they affect the park rating more than a normal guest. So it's a very nice feature that adds some nice variation to the game. Then I worked on something that isn't visible but is always important: performance improvements. There are two places where I've improved performance significantly. First is the confetti. The confetti is used in this congratulations window that pops up whenever the player achieves certain goals. This effect is great and it works, however it is based on constantly instantiating and destroying images. As you know, instantiation and destruction are very expensive costs. This confetti effect is actually something I made in a video a long time ago. It was the video celebrating 1,000 subscribers. It's a great effect, but due to the instantiation, it's actually quite performance heavy. So whenever the congratulations window pops up, it freezes the game for about 100 milliseconds as it instantiates the initial line of confetti parts. Now, one possible solution to this problem would be pulling the confetti parts. That would mostly solve the issue since we would no longer be instantiating and destroying. But I wanted to go one step further and instead just used a dynamic mesh. That way the whole thing works on a single game object. So over here are the two scripts, the normal confetti and the confetti mesh. Now in terms of logic, they are pretty much the same. They have a list of confetti parts, and then each confetti part is an instance of this class and has an update to move, rotate, and so on. Over here on the mesh is the exact same thing. There's the class for a single confetti and again the update which moves it and so on. So the logic on both of them are pretty much the same, except one of them is using images and the other one is using a mesh. For the mesh, I've covered it in several videos on how you make a basic mesh. It's very simple. All you need is vertices, triangles, and UVs, and then you simply add a quad for each of them. So quad is made up of 4 vertices, 4 UVs, and 6 triangles. So on the old script, this is constantly instantiating a certain prefab, whereas on the new script, it is simply adding a quad to the mesh. So the end result is visually exactly the same, however in terms of performance, here is the normal effect, constantly instantiating new parts, so there's always some tiny micro stutters, and as you can see taking 11 milliseconds and running at 90 frames per second. And here it is the mesh effect, and as you can see everything looks great. There are no micro stutters, there's nothing being instantiated or destroyed, and over here you can see 400 frames per second. So this is a great improvement and visually it looks exactly the same. So in this case it's a great idea to use a single mesh instead of hundreds of game objects. Now speaking of meshes, the other performance improvement involves very much the same thing. Now previously each ground tile was a single game object. This is obviously not the ideal approach, so we can pause and look at the hierarchy over here. And we can see over here all of these meshes, these are all ground tiles. As you can see right there, the ground tile, and there's hundreds of them. So over here, each of them for every single ground tile. So here if we look at the stats, there it is, we have 500 meshes being batched. Now it's good that they're being batched, but still this is quite wasteful. So now let's look at the new approach. Here it is, and visually they look exactly the same. However, if we pause and go to the hierarchy, there it is, we no longer have 100 objects right here. Every single one of those ground tiles is right here on a single mesh. So again, another performance improvement by grouping all of the separate game objects into a single mesh. And if we go back into our stats, and there it is, now saved by batching only 9. So we have successfully eliminated 400 game objects, replaced them with a single one, and it looks visually exactly the same. So these are 2 examples of things that the player will never notice since it looks exactly the same, but he will certainly enjoy the extra performance. Now, since we're talking about meshes, let's cover the various overlays. More overlays is something I've wanted to do for a very long time, since a Tycoon game is really all about the player having as much information as possible and making it easy to understand. Previously, the only overlay was this one, the environment overlay. So essentially each decoration object has a radius that affects the environment. So if I go in here onto the environment and place another decoration, let's say place a statue in there, you can see the new updated environment overlay. So depending on the object, some have a smaller radius and some have a bigger radius. So just like that, that one, as you can see, doesn't reach green, so I can add a couple more objects, and there you go, just like that, and the guests will enjoy having a nice environment. Now for the visuals of this overlay, It is very much the same. We again have a dynamic mesh. Every one of the various overlays are all mesh based in order to achieve good performance. Some are grid based and some are not. So for example, over here the environment is grid based, so it's based on the environment grid. So they're essentially a class which separates the entire map into various segments, and then each of them has a certain value. So over here on the green has a high value, and over here has a low value, and where it's black has 0. But then there are other overlays, like for example here the transporters, where again it is still based on a mesh, so we can pause and look at the dynamic mesh. Here is the mesh, and as you can see those are all different, but still this is all just a single mesh. All we have here are individual quads constantly following our transporters. So this overlay, for example, makes it easy in order to locate the various transporters. Another thing I've had recently are the maintenance workers, so here they are. And then various overlays for the various needs. So over here the excitement, as you can see, that one is really unhappy, that one is really happy, and so on. Then for the energy, bladder, thirst, hunger, and over here the global happiness. So these overlays should help the player quickly get an overview of how things are going. There are still a bunch more overlays that I want to add, like for the various financials like revenue and profit, as well as average wait time. Then this overlay over here is the crowd overlay. So it works very much like the environment, so it is grid based, and each guest updates his position whenever he moves every once in a while. So over here, this one helps you quickly understand where all the guests are located. So over here, we can see some red areas, so there's a lot of guests in here and not many around here. Right now, I'm still working on this overlay. I'm not sure if this contains all that much information, but either way, so far it works as a quick way of just seeing where all your guests are. So that's the overlays, and finally for the maintenance system. This system is composed of 3 different parts. There's the trash system, the maintenance system, and the maintenance workers. The trash system randomly spawns trash on the map, the maintenance system keeps track of the durability of various objects, and the workers look for things to clean up or fix. So for the workers, essentially they have a different AI from the transporters. Now the trash system is relatively simple, but has some interesting things to it. Essentially over here there's a tick counter constantly going down on every time tick. As it goes down, after a while it selects a random position in order to spawn some trash. Over here is some trash being spawned, and if we look at the overlay for the environment, there you go, each trash object causes a negative effect on the environment. So there you go, they keep getting randomly spawned only on the positions where there's a ground tile. So for example, trash will never be spawned out here. So that's one part of the system, randomly spawning some trash. And now we have the maintenance workers, so let's hire some workers, make them maintenance workers. And now look at them and look at the environment overlay. As you can see, that one goes there, cleans that one up, and so on. So all of them are cleaning up the trash as it gets spawned. Now the more guests you have, the more frequent the trash is spawned. Right now this is obviously just a debug frequency. So you need maintenance workers to clean it up. Then another part of the trash system is a new building which interacts with it, which is over here on the park, the trash can. So over here I'm going to place a trash can right there, and there it is, there's the visual for the trash can. Now when the trash system is going to spawn a trash object, first it looks around the target position for any trash can. If there's a trash can within range of the trash position, it checks if that trash can is full, and if not, it adds trash to the trash can. If it is full, then the trash gets spawned on the floor like normal. The trash can is a very simple building which essentially just holds an int. In total it can hold 5 trash. Here it is, the trash can logic. Essentially this is very simple, all it needs is this int for the trash amount and a maximum for the max amount of trash. So in here, symbol function to try to add, if it's not full then add it, fire an event and various functions to see if it is full or if it is empty. And as it gets added, the sprite gets updated, so over here we can look and we can see right now that trash can is completely empty, and after a while, as you can see, no trash is being spawned in here because if this area is selected, then it gets spawned right on top of the trash can. And after spawning a couple of them, there you go, the sprite changes, now it is half full, and after a while, there it is, the trash can is now completely full, so now more trash can be spawned in here. There it is, that trash object was created in there because that trash can is now full. And if we look at the overlays for the environment, there you go, now that one causes a negative reaction on the environment. So that's the trash, and again, let's make these workers into maintenance workers and watch as they clean up. There you go, cleans it up, and as you can see, the environment is nicely being improved. And then one of them will go and clean up the trash can, and there you go, now the trash can has been cleaned up, and everything is nice and green. Okay, awesome. So that's the trash system. Now the maintenance system is the other part of it. It is not yet fully complete. The idea is, as guests use various objects and buildings, they will lose their ability. And if completely broken, they need to be repaired in order to get back to working again. So right now, I've only implemented the basics on a single object, right here on the target practice lane. So this bar in here is a debug bar showing the current maintenance state. So as you can see, it is in there, and when this guy finishes and shoots down, and there you go, the maintenance bar went down since that guy used this lane. Then the maintenance worker, so let's assign one worker to be maintenance. And there he goes there and he repairs the lane. So the core of it is working, now I just need to apply it to all the other buildings and figure out how I'm going to visually show the system to the player. The idea being that obviously you need to take care of your park in order to make your guests happy. So these have been the elements that I've been working on Battle Royale Tycoon. New buildings, VIPs, overlays, maintenance, and trash system, and improved performance. The game is coming along nicely, and I believe the final game will be quite great. It is out now on Steam Early Access, so you can pick it up right now to play the current state. And in doing so, you'll be supporting this channel. If you do get the game, please make sure to write a review, since those are very important for getting the game more visibility on Steam, which helps it stand out. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel for more devlogs and Unity tutorials. Post any questions you have in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. Alright, see you next time.